One evening, Henry was laughing as he returned to the shed. "I've had to take Percy to the works today," he chuckled. "He went past the danger board at the harbour and fell into the sea." Gordon and James laughed too. "First Thomas and now Percy. What silly little engines they are." But Duck didn't laugh. How will Thomas and Toby manage the branch line without Percy's help? He wondered. "Never mind," rumbled Gordon. "I'm sure the Fat Controller will think of something." And the Fat Controller did. The next morning, he came to see Duck. "Until Percy comes back, I'd like you to help Thomas and Toby." Duck was pleased, but the big engines were annoyed. "What about the shunting, sir?" James protested. "I'm afraid you'll have to fetch your own trains again for a while," said the Fat Controller. "And this time, let's hear none of your no shunting nonsense." The big engines grumbled all day. It had been a long time since they had to fetch their own coaches and trucks. They didn't like it at all. "Bother that Percy," hissed Henry. "Fancy being so careless." "If only there was a way to bring Duck back sooner," grunted Gordon. Then James had an idea. "Perhaps," he whispered, "if we did the shunting badly, on purpose, then he might. We'll just pretend that we've forgotten how to shunt, that's all." Gordon and Henry thought that was a good idea. The next day, the big engines did their work as badly as they could. The yard was in a mess, trains ran late, and the passengers were not pleased. Neither was the Fat Controller. At the end of the day, he spoke severely to the big engines. "I can see why tender engines don't shunt. You've forgotten how to." "We were sorry, sir," said Gordon. "Things were so much better when we had someone else to fetch our trains." "It's a pity Duck is helping Thomas, though," added James meaningfully. "Oh, I see," said the Fat Controller. "In that case, I'll find someone else to look after the yard." Gordon, Henry and James grinned at each other. But the next morning there was a surprise waiting for them. "Good morning," said Toby. "The Fat Controller has sent me to help you." "But," spluttered Henry, "but what about Duck?" "Duck is still helping Thomas. I dare say they can manage by themselves. As for you three, show a wheel and jump to it." For the next few days, Toby kept the yard in good order. He was slower than Duck, but he stood for no nonsense. Henry, James and Gordon couldn't do anything without Toby knowing about it. At last, Percy returned from being mended. Toby went back to the quarry, and Duck came back to the yard. The big engines were exhausted. "It's good to be back," smiled Duck. "And just as well. I heard all about you three making a mess of the yard. Don't worry, I'll teach you to do things the Great Western way. That should keep you in order." "Oh no," the engines groaned. They began to wish that they had done their own shunting after all.